But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them.
Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
We discussed all this.
Have you ever felt like you had to censor yourself even when discussing factual information? You're not alone. Ricky Gervais is highlighting how this feeling has spread from comedy clubs to kitchen tables, using Keir Starmer's recent confrontation with JD Vance as evidence of a broader cultural shift. When political leaders claim to value free speech while simultaneously supporting policies that restrict it, we all face the consequences. Gervais sees himself as one of the few with enough platform and financial security to risk speaking out. The irony? A comedian has become one of free speech's most serious defenders at exactly the moment we need them most. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. In politics, there are moments that reveal the true nature of those who claim to lead with integrity. During the recent Trump meeting, JD Vance delivered just such a moment when he confronted British Prime Minister Keir Starmer about UK citizens being arrested for silent prayer. What followed was a rare glimpse behind the political curtain, a carefully constructed facade cracking under the pressure of uncomfortable truths. As Vance raised the issue of prayer-related arrests...
Let's go, JD. We're putting you on stage.
Great. Yeah, look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies.
In his remarks at the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK, particularly. Could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on.
Starmer's body language transformed before our eyes. He shifted uncomfortably, repeatedly touching Trump's arm as if seeking reassurance, while interrupting with the well-rehearsed line that Britain has a proud history of free speech. But the physical tells were unmistakable. The tightening around his eyes, the stiff posture, the forced smile. This wasn't just political disagreement. This was a man confronting the cognitive dissonance between his public claims and the reality of his governance. The facts Starmer couldn't acknowledge speak volumes. In recent years, UK authorities have arrested numerous citizens for actions that would be protected speech in most democracies. Isabel Vaughan Spruce was arrested multiple times for silently praying near an abortion clinic in Birmingham. Army veteran Darren Brady was arrested for retweeting a meme. Police questioned a man for liking a transgender-related post on social media. Each case represents not just an individual injustice, but a systematic pattern of speech control that directly contradicts Starmer's proud assertions. Ricky Gervais, who's built his career challenging orthodoxies through comedy, offered a particularly incisive take on this spectacle. Why do we trust them? Of course, we shouldn't trust the people in charge. That's how they're in charge, he remarked after watching the exchange. This wasn't just a throwaway line. It cuts to the heart of the issue. Political leaders benefit from presenting themselves as reasonable defenders of fundamental rights while simultaneously eroding those very freedoms. Gervais' entire comedy philosophy seems almost perfectly calibrated for this political moment. His famous stance on offense: I want people to stop saying, "That joke's offensive." I want them to start saying, "I found it offensive," highlights the subjective nature of offense. When governments begin policing speech based on subjective feelings rather than objective harm, we enter dangerous territory where power determines permissible expression. What makes the Starmer-Vance confrontation particularly significant is how it represents a broader pattern in modern politics. Leaders increasingly claim unwavering support for free expression while actively implementing policies that restrict it. The genius of modern censorship isn't that it announces itself with jackboots and book burnings. It arrives with compassionate rhetoric about harmful speech and protecting vulnerable communities. The danger lies precisely in how reasonable it all sounds. The contrast with Elon Musk's approach could hardly be more striking. While politicians like Starmer navigate the contradictions between their rhetoric and reality, Musk has taken concrete steps toward protecting free expression, most notably through his acquisition and transformation of Twitter into X. His approach, opening the platform to viewpoints across the political spectrum while maintaining minimal content restrictions, stands in direct opposition to the incremental speech restrictions favored by many Western governments. Is UK free speech truly under threat? The evidence suggests an unambiguous yes. When citizens can be arrested for silent prayer, social media posts, or even likes and retweets, fundamental expression rights have been compromised. What makes this situation particularly insidious is exactly what Gervais identifies. The threat doesn't announce itself with dramatic proclamations against liberty. Instead, it arrives in reasonable-sounding packages of protection and safety, making the erosion nearly invisible until confronted directly. The psychological dimension of Starmer's reaction reveals something profound about power and truth. When forced to confront the contradiction between his free speech claims and his government's actions, his discomfort wasn't just political embarrassment. It was the natural human response to cognitive dissonance. The mind struggles to simultaneously hold contradictory beliefs, and Starmer's physical tells betrayed that internal struggle. What Ricky Gervais understands, and what makes his voice so critical in today's climate, is that free speech transcends mere comedy. As he powerfully stated, when people can't speak freely, we witness the death of innovation and genuine conversation, ultimately leading to society's stagnation. This isn't just philosophical musing. It's a warning about democracy's fragile foundation. Gervais' ability to expose uncomfortable truths through humor makes him not just entertaining, but essential. He recognizes what history has repeatedly shown. Restrictions on speech typically precede broader erosions of rights. The brilliance of his approach lies in using comedy to illuminate this reality without descending into dry political commentary. The modern threat to expression is particularly insidious because it advances under polite pretenses, reasonable-sounding language that masks authoritarian impulses. As Gervais warns, this battle for free speech isn't simply about protecting jokes. It's about preserving the very foundation that enables society to function, innovate, and progress. Once free speech disappears, everything else begins to crumble. The question facing us now isn't whether threats to expression exist, but whether we'll recognize them before the damage becomes irreversible.